Ladies and gentlemen, this is Big Ray's Wrestling Show. If you don't know me, I am the mark of the masses, the man with a plan. Big Ray here to stay to talk some TNA Lockdown 2014 today. Ladies and gentlemen, this was one hell of a pay-per-view coming from Miami, Florida. Oh man, I gotta tell you, I was so excited for this pay-per-view, and when I was done with it, watching the pay-per-view, I gotta tell you, man, one of the best pay-per-views of this year so far. It's a great pay-per-view, guys. Really quickly, I'm sorry if the video is up a little late. I had some computer issues, but anyway, I thank you for your support. You can follow us here at OneWrestling.com, YouTube /OneWrestlingVideo. Follow me on Twitter at Big Ray Show. Follow my partner, the legendary Bill Apter, at ApterOneWrestling.com. Well, I'm sorry, Apter One Wrestling on Twitter. And actually, you can follow my Can-Am brother from the north, my tag team compadre, Mr. Andre Corbeil, at Andre_Corbeil, where we have the Can-Am Wrestling Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a plethora of guests coming onto the show, and this week, this Saturday, depending on when you watch this video, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have beautiful Bobby Eaton, formerly of the Midnight Express from the NWA/WCW. So now let's jump right into this exciting, really awesome pay-per-view. And I am not putting this pay-per-view over. This pay-per-view was worth every single penny that I paid to watch. Now, we start off and we see Joe and Magnus coming to the arena, and in the very first match is the steel cage match. We have Bad Influence and Chris Saban versus Team Wrestle One from Japan. We have Sanada, the new X Division champion, Yasu, and the Great Muta. I gotta tell you something, guys. I am a huge fan of the Great Muta. I've been following the Great Muta since the early 80s, and I remember him winning the NWA title. My God, this guy is a legend, and I gotta be honest with you, he looked phenomenal in this match. You would have never guessed that this is the same Great Muta I watched when I was a little kid. Amazing. So anyway, we come in and we have Bad Influence, and Bad Influence basically, they enter the ring wearing these blue gis and this Japanese mask. Really funny. We have the Great Muta, and Great Muta comes in not with the traditional face paint, but now he's shaved bald basically, and he has a really cool, creepy looking mask. He shoots that green mist. Really intimidating. Now, towards the end of the match, we have Chris Saban. Chris Saban is holding the Great Muta, and we have Kaz, who goes into the ropes to hit the Great Muta, but guess what? Great Muta elbowed, got himself out of that predicament, and as Kaz is coming towards him, getting ready to hit him with what looks like to be a forearm shot, he gets the green mist right in the face. Holy cow. Now, at this point, Sanada hits Kaz with what appears to be like a Stone Cold Stunner. Really sells it very well. And then the Shining Wizard by the Great Muta, which Sanada goes to the top rope, hits the moonsault for the 1, 2, 3, guys. Team Wrestle One goes over, and then at the end of the match, the Great Muta spits out purple mist. I don't know how the hell he does that. He jumps from green to purple, from purple to whatever the hell color. But I gotta be honest with you guys, this match was amazing. It was a great way of starting off this pay-per-view. And I said to myself, wow, this is pretty awesome. Now, we go to a Dixie Carter segment, and she's introduced by Rockstar Spud. And she basically, number one, she trashes the Miami Heat, which I really don't mind, with all due respect. I am a New York Knicks fan, even though we totally suck. But she rips the Miami Heat, she rips the fans, and she says that she went to New York City to get an insurance policy on the Lethal Lockdown match for control of TNA, which I was like, you know, what the hell, she went to New York City. But anyway, she said that, then she goes on to say that Jeff Hardy was in breach of contract when he left TNA, and he is not going to be allowed by security into the building. We move on to the Sam Shaw, Mr. Anderson match. Now, don't forget, every single match was in a steel cage. This is one of my favorite pay-per-views. Every single match in a steel cage. The creepy bastard himself, Sam Shaw, versus Mr. Anderson. Now, Sam Shaw climbs to the top of the cage and he says, you know, where's Christy? Where's Christy? Where's Christy? And he says if Christy doesn't come out, that he will professionally end it all. I guess he was referring to some type of suicide. He climbs to the top, looks like he's about to throw himself off the top of the cage. When Mr. Anderson comes out, he does his whole Mr. Anderson. Wait for it. Anderson. Mr. Anderson proceeds to say that he'll be a goof because, you know, he needs to come down, he needs to fall from at least 5 stories to actually kill himself, and he'd just probably break an ankle or sprain a muscle or something like that, or maybe break a bone. But anyway, during the match we have Christy Hemme, and she comes out into the ring. She comes out on the side, you know, she's watching from the side of the cage, and during the match we have the referee, which was Earl Hebner, who actually gets knocked out, and he's actually trying to open the cage door, and the cage door gap actually slams into his head. And Christy Hemme is, again, on the outside of the ring. Now, while this is happening, referee Earl Hebner is knocked out. Ken Anderson is able to climb outside the cage, and technically he won the match. But what actually happens is Sam Shaw uses that big hole that the cameras use to shoot inside the ring, and he pulls Christy Hemme into the ring, and then he begins to stalk Christy Hemme. Christy Hemme is screaming, she's scared, but then she musters up enough energy to slap the living taste out of his mouth. While this is happening, Ken Anderson, Mr. Anderson, comes into the ring. He gets the key, he actually opens the door. He escorts Christy Hemme out, but ladies and gentlemen, he goes in, he gets locked into that Kenta Kantani choke by Sam Shaw. Sam Shaw putting him to sleep. Then he goes after his girl backstage. We don't know what happens. I guess we'll have to find out in Impact Wrestling this week what happened after the match, if he actually got his hands on Christy Hemme. But as far as we know, Christy Hemme was able to get away. Now, Sam Shaw actually ends up walking out of the cage as Earl Hebner revives, and they give the match to Sam Shaw. So technically, again, Mr. Anderson won that match. Since the referee was knocked out, Sam Shaw walks out of the cage. That's what Earl Hebner sees. That's the match. So yeah, so we have so now we move on to EC3. Now EC3 cuts a promo. Now apparently Kurt Angle is really legitimately injured. Or is he? I'm wondering if this is actually a work. From what I understand and what I know, this is a legitimate injury. Now, EC3 comes to the ring and he starts cutting a promo. He says how Kurt Angle basically purposely got injured or scheduled his surgery so that he didn't have to face EC3 during this pay-per-view. And then EC3 proceeds to put out a challenge, an open challenge to anyone on the roster who chooses to fight him then and there in that steel cage. Well, guys, I was totally 1000% fooled. I had no idea that Bobby Lashley would accept that challenge, and EC3 says, hold on, you're not on the roster, I am not. I refuse to face you. You are not one of TNA's talents. Bobby Lashley proceeds to hit him with a running power slam, and then he hits him with a flying spear, knocking the crap out of EC3 rolling out of the ring. Now the question is said, is this man, Bobby Lashley, now part of TNA again? I think it would be really, really great to see Bobby Lashley back in the ring. I remember back in the day when they had this, the whole thing with the MMA fighter, I can't remember, is it Tito Ortiz? And they did that whole silhouette and all this, it ended up bombing. But I remember me and Andre Corbeil would talk about how it would be great if it was Bobby Lashley coming back. I think Bobby Lashley would make a great addition back to TNA Wrestling. You know, he's done the MMA thing and he's proved himself relatively well. But I think it's time for Bobby Lashley to get back in that ring. I would love to see him as part of the TNA roster on a regular basis. Now we're going to move on to a great. This match was awesome. And this was Manik, formerly Suicide, versus Tigre Uno, or #1 Tigre. Now again, this was a fantastic match, extremely fast-paced. We have Tigre at one point hitting a beautiful springboard Hurricane Rana, and then we had a huge sit-up powerbomb by Manik during the match, and basically Tigre or Tigre Uno goes over with the corkscrew 450 splash for the 1-2-3 clean win. My God, this guy again, he does remind me of Rey Mysterio, again trained by Rey Mysterio Sr. This young man really, really proved to be a superstar. He's got a great look. Now you say, what are you talking about a great look? I'm kind of digging the mask. I would like to know what you guys think. Hit me up here at OneWrestling.com or YouTube/OneWrestling video. Leave your comment here below. Now we're going to move on to a match that I really didn't care about. And well, apparently sorry about my damn luck. Well, I guess my luck was actually pretty good, because this last man standing match between James Storm and Gunner was a freaking good match. Now, The match basically started off immediately as these guys met on the ramp on the way to the ring, and they started beating the hell out of each other, and they started fighting on the ramp. And we have Cowboy James Storm, who basically trying to choke out Gunner with a wire from inside the ring. And then we also have Mr. Intensity, who's getting his head slammed on the turnbuckle, and after Gunner stops slamming his head into the turnbuckle, he continues to slam his head into the turnbuckle, and then he got that adrenaline rush and he goes after Cowboy James Storm. Now, listen, all these weapons came into play. This match was hard-hitting, really good action, told a story. I was surprised. I really, really was into this match. And you know what, guys? I gotta be honest with you. I wasn't a big fan of Gunner before this match. After this match, I see something special in that guy, man. I mean, I was really, 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 really excited by this match. At one point, Gunner was on top of the cage, and they were basically, Gunner comes off the top rope looking to hit a flying elbow drop that appeared. But while Cowboy James Storm was on the ground, he picked up a steel chair and threw it into the face of Gunner. Now, towards the end of the match, we have Gunner, who slams Cowboy James Storm face into the cage as they're fighting on the top rope, actually holding onto the cage. And he hits, there were two chairs facing each other in the middle of the ring. Gunner hits a huge superplex off the top rope, crashing Cowboy James Storm into those chairs. And then he actually, Gunner being, using a chair as a crutch to get up. And you know what? He wins the match, and I gotta tell you, he won the match and he actually stole my heart. What a freaking good match. These guys showed a lot of, like I said, great storytelling. I'm gonna say it again. Gunner, if you watch this, man, you didn't impress me before. I wasn't really impressed. I wasn't into you, but you really showed me that you are a true star here at TNA Wrestling. Again, this is my opinion. I would like to know what you guys think. Really awesome. Now we're gonna move on to a quick match between Gail Kim and Madison Rayne. Now I shouldn't say quick match again. Man, this was an awesome match. Another hard-hitting match for the TNA Knockouts Championship belt. And you know what? The best part of this match is that Lady Tapa did not get involved. Really, really, really great match. At one time we had Madison Rayne, who was sitting on the shoulders of Gail Kim. She was standing on the top rope, and she was using, I can't even explain it, but she was slamming Gail Kim's face into the cage using her thighs and knees. You have to watch it to actually know what the hell I'm talking about. At one point there was a huge bump taken by Madison Rayne as she got hit with a top rope neck breaker by Gail Kim. And then Madison Rayne actually wins the match with a huge, and I keep saying huge, spear off the top rope for the 1, 2, 3. Madison Rayne retains her title. So now we move on for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. We have the Samoa Submission Machine, Samoa Joe, going against the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, the British-born Magnus. And this was a great match, and I'm going to keep saying it. All these matches were extremely tremendous. Extremely tremendous. Now, Magnus was busted open during this match. His face was repeatedly shoved into that cage, slammed into the cage. We had Joe towards the end of the match who actually hits the muscle buster and puts Magnus in a rear naked choke. Now, as he's choking out Magnus, from the depths of hell, a hand comes out of the ring and reaches and grabs Samoa Joe, pulling him under the ring. And then Joe comes out bleeding and looks like he was beaten. I said to myself, who the hell is this? What's going on here? Well, as Joe has the champion in the corner, Abyss comes out from the depths of the ring, from the depths of hell, I guess, and he hits Samoa Joe and Magnus right in the ribcage. We have the World Heavyweight Champion Magnus kicking or nudging at the down Samoa Joe, making sure that he is not breathing. And guess what, guys? Magnus puts the sleeper on. Joe does not respond. The referee rings the bell, and Magnus is still your TNA World Heavyweight Champion. So now, as the match ends, we have Abyss, and you can tell Magnus wasn't really sure because Abyss was a little out of control. Abyss takes that title belt and he puts it on the shoulder of the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Magnus, and they celebrate at the top of the ramp. Wow, did you guys expect this, guys? I didn't. I didn't expect this twist towards the end of the match. I actually, in this match, I thought to myself, and I predicted at the Can-Am Wrestling Show number 20, if you guys want to check it out, you can check it out on Andre Corbeil on YouTube. I thought Samoa Joe would actually win the TNA World Heavyweight title, but it did not happen. Now, backstage, Eric Young is pissed, and Magnus proceeds to kind of gloat and say that he is the only one who understands Abyss, and Abyss is standing there celebrating an agreement. Now we move on backstage. We see Dixie Carter. She's on her cell phone, and she's on the phone with her New York City help, or her insurance policy. Bobby Roode wants to know who is this supposed help or this supposed insurance policy, and Dixie Carter says, "There's some things, darling, that are better left unsaid." Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, it is the main event of the evening. Lethal Lockdown for the TNA control, or for control of the TNA, for control of TNA Wrestling. Say that 5 times fast. Team Dixie, consisting of Bobby Roode, Austin Aries, and the Bromans, versus MVP, Team MVP, to MVP, Jeff Hardy, and the Wolves. Now, since Jeff Hardy is not allowed in the building, then it would be a 4-on-3 handicap match, or so we thought. We'll jump into the ring. So the rules of the match is basically the first 5 minutes, it's 2-on-2, and every 2 minutes another wrestler comes into the ring. Once all the wrestlers are in the ring, the steel cage comes down, and then the top comes down on top of the cage, and Lethal Lockdown begins. During this match, it was really hard-hitting. It was really exciting. There was a lot of good spots in this match, and finally 7 guys are in the ring, and then there was another countdown, and Taz is like, "Well, what the hell is going on here? Who's coming down?" Ladies and gentlemen, technically Jeff Hardy did not come to the ring. The lights all come down, and who appears standing on the top of the cage? It is Willow the Wisp, aka Jeff Hardy. He comes off the top of the cage onto all 4 members of Team Dixie. Holy freaking crap. And now the top of the cage is lowered. Now, as the cage is lowered, Team Dixie comes to the ramp, and she introduces her special guest referee. Do you know who he is? Do you know who he is? Ladies and gentlemen, Bully Ray, the insurance policy, comes into the ring, and now all bedlam breaks out inside this cage. Tables, trash cans, weapons of all kind. Now, a table is set up in the ring. Bobby Roode has MVP up for the Bobby Roode bomb, or the Roode bomb, and while this is happening, Bully Ray actually stands in the way of Roode putting MVP through the table, and then he drops MVP, and he gets in the face of Bully Ray. Well, he pushes Bully Ray. Bully Ray then proceeds to hit Bobby Roode with a huge rock bottom. Now MVP is in the corner looking around like, what the hell is going on here? Almost like he had absolutely no idea, like this is crazy. But then as Bobby Roode gets up, MVP hits him with the Yakuza kick to the face, pins Bobby Roode for the 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, Team MVP now has full control of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, Impact Wrestling. I gotta tell you, Dixie Carter was furious. Bully Ray comes up to the team, to Team MVP, and raises all their hands in solidarity. Dixie Carter then comes down to the ring, and she starts screaming at Bully Ray as MVP's team goes off to celebrate. Bobby Roode is then picked up and powerbombed right through the table as Bully Ray celebrates. We go off the air. Now my question is this: what kind of strife will there be between the World Heavyweight Champion and MVP? Is Magnus, are his days numbered as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion? Or is the insurance policy he has, Abyss, enough to hold on that title for a little while longer? Who do you think will step up and become the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion? Ladies and gentlemen, I say this every single week. I would do this for a living, but if I can, I would do it anyway. Why? Because I love talking wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you can follow us here at OneWrestling.com, YouTube/OneWrestlingVideo. You can follow us on Twitter at OneWrestling. Follow me on Twitter at Big Ray's Show. Follow Bill After at After1Wrestling. Follow my brother from the north, Andre Corbeil, Andre_Corbeil. And don't forget to check out the Can-Am Wrestling Show this Saturday with very, very special guests. NWA/WCW legend, one of the greatest members of one of the greatest tag teams of all time, the Midnight Express. Yes, I'm talking about beautiful Bobby Eaton. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you this Thursday for your TNA Impact recap. I cannot wait for the fallout. This was one heck of a pay-per-view, and I'm not putting this stuff over. Oh, and don't forget, guys, at OneWrestling.com, I will be posting some of my interviews. I got to interview some of the best in the business and some of the upcoming independent stars at WPW, World Premier Wrestling. Yes, I was a fixture there. Bill Apter was there. Bill Apter actually did some play-by-play with Joel Gertner. Well, and the legendary manager of the Four Horsemen, James J. Dillon. We got some great interviews for you guys. Please retweet them. I'm going to post them on Twitter. Guys, I will see you soon. I will see you Thursday. That was one hell of a pay-per-view. If you agree with me, leave a comment here below. If you don't, I still want to hear from you guys. Peace.